Jack it up. Jack it up.
Okay, hello and welcome to the second episode of EQ Combo. Today, I am joined by Reirachu. She is a host. She does interviews. She does commentary. She does just translating. She does a lot of talents. How are you today?
Hey, I'm good. I'm kind of tired because it's a bit late at night, but I think it's early in the morning where you guys are in New York.
Yeah, right now it's 10 a.m. here, so it's nice that there's a 12-hour time difference, so it's very easy to like set things up
Yeah,
because you just have to change from AM to PM for the most part.
yeah, yeah. It's better than like West Coast.
Yeah. What have you been up to ever since like PCS has stopped?
Since finals, for playoffs, let me see. I was casting during the regular season for summer for PCS, right? And then playoffs was about like 3 weeks, and I spent like 2 of those weeks actually in Istanbul for VCT. Like I
Okay.
was doing the interviews, like because usually I do them remote from Singapore anyway. So for Turkey, like for playoffs, I was just doing it in Turkey. I like brought my setup over and then I was there for a while, and then I came back from that. So it's kind of like a bit off season for me right now. I'm just like streaming, doing a bit of like Valorant, catching up and stuff, and just like prepping for the next season for both games.
Okay, I see. Okay, so you do so instead of just League of Legends, you also do Valorant? Do you also cast other games besides Valorant and League of Legends?
It depends. So like there are a lot of games that I like to play. I don't know like if I'm super degen or something. I just like whatever new game is out, like I will probably play it. So I've casted a whole bunch of like other stuff in the past. If it's like variety or if it's like a one-off thing, there's a good chance that I might have casted it before. So like Pokemon Unite, for example,
Okay.
or like Among Us, like that sort of thing, like any game for like whatever event or like charity and stuff, or like community event, I've probably done before. But in the past, mostly League. I think I usually stick to probably like the Riot titles, not for like any particular reason. I think I just end up playing them
Okay.
more. Yeah.
Okay, I see. I was wondering, I looked at your Twitter profile and there's like a bunch of different languages. How many languages can you speak?
Oh my god. I know like I asked you this like before we were going to do today's call. I was like, I'm not sure like if you want to like speak a bit of Japanese or something. But yeah, because for PCS, right? Like I've had to do it in English as well as Mandarin. And then I mean, like we had 3 seasons of PSG with Korean imports winning, and then we have to do the team interview, which is like they always have Koreans, so then I always have to use Korean for the interviews. But I speak English, Chinese, and then actually like my third language is like Japanese because it's so much better
Okay.
than my Korean. Like my Korean is like I get so nervous whenever I have to use it for interviews, but I think the audience really like it. And like unfortunately, like LCK and like the Koreans in League, they're like master race, right? Like I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
to I have to use Korean a lot in League, but like I spent like a lot of years in League being like, man, I wish like the Japanese teams were better. Why aren't there more Japanese imports and stuff? But yeah,
Okay.
I had to do French in middle school. We don't talk about that.
Oh, I took French in middle school as well. It was like an
Yeah,
option at school, so I just took it for fun because I was like, I just thought it'd be cool to know more languages, but it's not that good. Like, I barely could
yeah,
speak one language, so like learning a
right.
language is so
No.
hard. I hate it. It's like the worst feeling ever.
Yeah, I think like because I like to learn languages more than I like to do like math or science or whatever. Like in school, I was just like, oh, I can't. And I feel like it's funny because like in esports, people are always like, oh my god, like you speak so many languages, you must be so smart. And I'm like, thank you, thank you, but I'm not sure. But yeah.
Okay. So
Mhm.
yeah, when you do the interviews, it's always fun watching you like do the interviews in the
Mhm.
PCS because I feel like you do such a good job switching from like English to Mandarin and back and forth.
Mhm.
So it was very enjoyable
Yeah.
watching you like do that because the transition is so smooth.
I get mixed up. Like, I think because it's been like what 2 years by now, right? But I think like when I first started last spring, like I was so much slower or more like nervous at having to do it because like I don't usually like if I'm hosting or interviewing for like say Valorant for like Game Changers or whatever, then most cases I'm only interviewing in English, and then so in that case I can just concentrate on the interview, and then I can just concentrate on like the questions, and then there's a lot more like discourse, there's a lot more like responding to whoever like the player and what they're saying, and then I can kind of like change the course of the interview from there. But then because I have to like translate and stuff. Like I've come up with like a sequence where there's as little transition as possible. So like for example, like when the casters throw it to the interview, I always do like I do the intro in Mandarin, like "Hello, 大家好, 我是主持人Reirachu," so that like they're not suddenly like, why is she speaking English? So, like it still feels smooth. And then I do the English part, but then I put it into like one section. So then I do the intro and then I introduce the players, and then like then I'll do like in Mandarin like 可以介绍一下吗? And then like so the player understands that I'm tossing to them, that sort of
Okay.
thing. And then so I'll always like ask the question in English first, and then I'll translate it into Mandarin. So then when they reply me, I translate their answer into English. I ask the next question in English, and then I ask the question in Mandarin. So it's like you don't really hear English Chinese as much.
Oh,
So
okay.
like there's as little breaks as possible. So I have to. But sometimes if I'm like, okay, this is going to be the next question, sometimes I forget because it's easier for me to ask in English, or sometimes I end up like translating first or whatever, and then it messes up, and I'm like, wait a minute. And like there were a few times, I think there was like one time this season where I forgot to translate an answer. Also, like 1 or 2 times, like it happens. It
Okay.
happens.
I never
But yeah, it's
noticed
like a
the
lot.
English like Mandarin English
Yeah,
Mandarin.
it's so
I
that like
never
for the
noticed that.
viewer, like you don't feel like it's as smooth as possible, and like my hope is that you don't notice it, which is great.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So I
Yeah.
guess it works because I never really thought
Yeah.
about that. Because I
Yeah.
always thought I was like, wow, it's really good, like because sometimes even though I can't understand the translations, like sometimes you feel like
Uh-huh.
it's a little bit weird, like it's a little bit awkward I always feel like with
Yeah.
your interviews, it's always like really smooth. So I was like, oh wow, this like
Uh-huh.
as someone that's not like very good at Mandarin, it always felt like really good, like transitioning like
Yeah.
from English to Mandarin back and forth. So that's why I
Yeah,
thought it was
thank
really good.
you. Because, like, at the start, I think, like, if you're not thinking about it, I think most people would just do, like, they would just ask in Chinese, ask in English, and then the player will answer in Chinese, I'll translate in English. And then if I ask in Chinese again and then I go to English again, like, you'll really feel it, that
Oh,
sort of
okay.
thing. But if you're not thinking of, like, the big picture, I think most people, like, that's more easy to do. Like, if you, yeah, that's like, you don't have to remember it as much. But for me, I need to remember, like, the sequence and the sequence of questions, and then also like I have to keep it live, so depending on like what the player's answering, like the interview might go somewhere else too. So it's just like a lot of, like, if I could only just translate or if I could just only interview, like it would be so much easier. I feel like when I interview for PCS, like I feel like I could interview better, or sometimes I feel like I could translate better. It's just I have a lot going on when it's live. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess in most situations, it's either you translate or you do the interview. So I guess, yeah, I guess it is
Hmm.
more impressive that you can do both at the
Yeah.
same time. Um, do you have like so? I know you talked to a lot of players and stuff. Do you have a favorite player that you enjoy interviewing?
Like, people ask me this all the time. Like, I've been asked this so many times over the last 2 years, and I feel like there are some players who are definitely really seasoned, or like they're very easy to interview. Like, they speak and they respond very well. But then there are some players who are just very funny or very interesting to interview, because like you have no clue what they're gonna say, and I feel like those are my favorite. Like, I don't want, like, the usual like canned PR response
Yeah,
or whatever, like all the time. Yeah. So I think there are like a handful of players that I like to interview. I think for last year, like Maple was always very easy to interview, because I mean he's been on the pro
yeah.
circuit for so long. Like, he's good at giving PR answers, but he's so comfortable that he also like doesn't mind like being straight up or like being funny, and he knows like what the fans want to hear. Also, he knows like what will hit. Doggo also was just like he was new, but like he just said like whatever he thought of.
Okay.
And like he would, like, in our, usually for our interviews, when the analyst desk or whatever is like wrapping up, we have like about 5 to 10 minutes before the interview goes live, where we can like run through the questions and stuff. And then for Dago, for example, like the staff from Carrie Live were always like warning him, like, like, don't make things difficult. You can't say this.
What?
And then last year, yeah, and then for PSG also, because usually for Korean imports, I'm always like, oh yeah, so like, can you like show off some Chinese, like what Chinese have your teammates taught you? And then it's always swear words. So then whenever like we rehearse before that, like there, and then like the producers and stuff are always like, you can't say this, don't say this word, don't say this word, like you'll get our Twitch channel banned. Yeah, so that's always like, it's good that we can rehearse for like a few minutes first. I think for CFO, I mean, like, everyone loves Rest, right? Like,
Yeah.
Rest is like the finals interview, and he was all like, when I was like, do you guys have any like, nice words that you want to like say, or are you grateful to anyone? And he was all like, I'm grateful to like my last team for kicking me from the roster late so that I could only get picked up by CFO. And I was like, where is this coming from? Yeah, like I thought it was a very innocent question, but I think he thought otherwise. But I think the audience really liked it. I like Mission in particular also, actually, to interview him, because Mission, he's harder to translate, but I think like what's interesting about Mission interviews is that if you're tuning out, it just sounds like he's giving very PC canned responses. But then like if you actually listen to what he's saying, he's actually very BM. It's just that like you don't hear it so much. Like, I remember when I asked him last year, during last year's interview, or it was, no, spring interview. Yeah, the spring interview. I asked him a couple questions about like where he would rank himself amongst like the mid laners in the PCS, and also what his thoughts about like Uniboy were when they played versus J Team. And then like if you're just like casually listening, it sounds like he's being very respectful to Uniboy. But what he was actually saying, like he was saying stuff like, oh, like we play like very different styles. Uniboy, like he usually he likes to like pair with his jungle to like make stuff happen and so on. So like that's what like on the surface it sounds like, but you can tell that what he's like actually saying is like he needs his jungler to help him, like that sort of thing.
Okay.
Like yeah, so like I feel like he's very smart, and then he can also like reply questions very well. So like I also like to interview Mission.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I because you started casting recently, I was wondering like
Mm-hmm.
because you have experience like interviewing and like talking to players, has that helped your cast in any way?
Yeah, it has for sure because I think especially when I just started out like a long time ago when I first started out casting, I didn't know as much about the game like in depth. I mean, like yeah, I watched a lot of games and I did know about the game, but I didn't know it at like the challenger type of level. And then so at the start, I was always like really fortunate to have like good relationships with teams or in the past when I was also in an organization, so I was able to like watch a lot of like pro level scrims and stuff like that. And then also like talk to players about like, oh, like this matchup or this patch, or like, what do you think about that? Or like, hey, like, what's the build here? Or like, oh, I saw something like weird in this like other region game. Like, what did you think? That sort of thing. So it was always very helpful to like have that type of like network where I could like get advice on.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. I guess that's all I have for the PCS because I kind of want to get into play-ins because one of the
Yeah.
most disappointing things from watching the play-ins as like from being from PCS is the fact that BYG did not make it through
Oh my
the
god.
play-in
I
stage.
I
That
had like literally I have their jersey. Oh my god. Like literally like right next to me. I didn't plan this for like this program. I was just literally like sleeping in their jersey like last night, like crying in their jersey like at night. Yeah, I was very upset because I wanted to like watch party their games. I'm not sure if I can show this on like the CFO
no, you
YouTube
can
channel.
because I saw you wearing it on
Like,
the was it LOL Esports or like the PCS Esports channel? You and
yeah,
Nightstar were doing
for
the
the
predictions,
podcast.
and I saw you wearing the
Yeah,
jersey. So we
I
need to get
know.
you a CFO jersey so you can wear
I
that on the
really want
broadcast.
the CFO. You know what? They should send me the jersey for doing this
Yeah,
program.
yeah,
They should.
we will. I've been
Will
telling them
you?
they've been like taking their time with the merch, like
Yeah, no,
launch.
I know, right? No, because I went to the website. I wanted to buy the jersey, but I think that it might only ship within Taiwan because you can also like custom the back. I think, right, with like the
Okay,
number and the
yeah, yeah,
IT.
I think
But then
so.
I think they're only shipping on like the end of the month or something. And I was like, that like worlds will be close to over by then. I mean, like unless CFO's like in the final, and then I'll get it on like that day. But like, come on, yeah, I want the CFO jersey too. Last year, for Worlds, PSG and BYG both sent me like their merch. So then I filmed like some like 加油 videos for both teams
Oh,
for
okay.
them for the PCS social media. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I could wear the BYG jersey for our predictions video, but then like I cleared it with like our producers beforehand. Like they had to like check because I mean we have two teams going to Worlds, not just
Yeah.
one team. Although now we only have one more team in Worlds, so good luck,
Yeah,
CFO.
we're the last hope of the PCS. But
Yes,
yeah, like,
yes.
did you expect BIG to not even make it to the best of five? Like, I feel like that's such a shocker when you consider who they had to
Yeah,
go up against because they
I
lost to
know,
so many
right?
teams.
Yeah, like we were really lucky, I think, for the play and draw that we got group A and we managed to dodge like LCK and LPL. But yeah, like I think for when we were like predicting what would happen during play-ins, I think like for me at least, like my conclusion was just kind of like like they've gotten lucky with the draw, and whether or not they can make it out of groups will be up to them. Like if they show up, they have a shot. Like, but if they don't, then it's really on them because this is like the best chance that they're going to get. And I feel like compared to some of the like most of the other teams, I was a bit disappointed with BYG. I mean, like DFM, Saigon Buffaloes, like, you know, like they came out, they were like, this is how a region plays like, and like they had a couple of like moments of their own, but like for BYG, I just feel like they were kind of like middling. Yeah, so it was a
Mhm.
bit disappointing. What did you think?
Yeah, I was pretty like because I thought BYG should be around the same level as EG, so I thought they would be like
Mm-hmm.
second or third place, but I didn't ever
Mm-hmm.
expect them to get fifth place because yeah,
Yeah.
like I feel like it's kind of weird that they didn't perform well because they didn't look good. They looked good against like Chiefs and like Loud, but not many
Yeah.
people would put them like in a high position. So I feel like, well, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you should do better than those teams, and I thought they should do better than DFM, and maybe they could do better
Mm-hmm.
than EG, but like
Mm-hmm.
it's like I don't think the gap between like EG and like BYG DFM is like that big. But I thought it would be big
Yeah.
enough that BYG should be able to have a chance to go to the group stage.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I wasn't sure if they would make it into group stage, but I actually thought that they would have a better chance making it into group stage than CFO might, like getting into the top 8 into like
Hmm.
quarters. Because at first, like with the play-in draw, like it also looked like RNG was going to end up in group D, and we're like that it's going to be really hard like for Group D for CFL also. So I thought that BYG at least would have made it to a best of 5, like for the top 4 in their group, but then they didn't.
Yeah,
Sad.
yeah. I mean, like, I
Mhm.
don't know what else to say because I really thought like, because they came in as like the pool one team, so it was like
Mhm.
pool one was like DRX, RNG, Fnatic, and BYG, and for that, so
Mhm.
like I guess next season they're gonna go down in the rankings because placing below all the other teams, even though the format is kind of like flippy with all the best of ones, I
Mhm.
still feel like they should still be consistently good enough to get into top four at least in the group, especially when you avoid like DRX and RNG. Like when you avoid that, if you place top two in your groups, you have a very high chance of making it out. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's just like it's really like unfortunate, but maybe next year,
Yeah.
we can always say like next year is when PCS is going to like evolve.
Oh, I hope so. I mean, like, I think MSI this year already was a bit disappointing for our region. So, yeah, we kind of like need to have a good MSI performance to like keep our second seed in play-ins, right? So, I
Yeah,
think like next year is going to be pretty crucial for us.
yeah. I do think BYG did decent. I just think the meta wasn't really favorable for them. Like they didn't look super
Mhm.
comfortable on this meta, especially Minji. I thought that his
Yeah,
like the champion pool like seemed more like control mages, and he isn't.
yeah.
I mean, he's not bad on control mages, but I don't see him as like a control mage player. Like he can't play like Azir, right? So that was a very popular pick, but I just felt like he didn't really perform as well as he did in the playoffs, like the
Yeah,
semifinals.
I think it's hard, right, for them to keep that performance because I think like BYG from regular season and then BYG at playoffs like was already a different beast, right? Like we
Yeah,
had like Lee Kai who was suddenly playing like a whole different set of champs, and then we had like both Husha and Minji who were like stepping up, and Wako like whenever he hits big. So I think like I was always like not sure if it was just BYG having like a great 3 weeks for playoffs because for some reason like Minji always does really well at playoffs. It's like suddenly it's playoffs and like he's there for it. So I wasn't sure if like they could carry that into Worlds this time, and of course like the meta was a bit different. And I think like I don't know, like they had like a few weeks for playoffs, but I wasn't sure if it was like enough. For example, for them to like play Worlds meta, or like for Lee Kai to suddenly like play a bunch more of like the duelists and stuff. I wasn't sure if like they had enough time to really like fix those issues before heading to Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah, I do kind of feel bad for BYG. It's really like hard
Yeah.
because they did look really well, like good in the playoffs portion. So I thought like, oh, okay, they're gonna do like pretty good. I didn't think they would like I thought like realistically they probably would be behind Fnatic and EG. But if that
Mm-hmm.
happened, I still would have been like, oh, that's a good performance. I just feel like
Yeah.
it's a little bit like they. I mean, it is a one game difference between third and fourth and fifth.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess even second
Yeah.
because EG also went 3-2. So yeah, he could one more win would have put him either in second place or like fifth place. So
Fifth.
it is a
Yeah.
very tight, close group.
Yeah, they did play a bunch of tiebreakers. Like, I actually thought that BYG would come in second after Fnatic. I thought, like, and then EG, I thought were going to come in third. So yeah, it was pretty disappointing, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah.
like I think they did have a few good moments, like the Baron Steel, who's just Baron Steel versus EG, like on the day that it counted and stuff. Like when that happened, I felt a bit of hope, even though like they were so far behind, but like they really needed that. Like they needed to like win their games that day, and I was like, it might be possible. I was like, because for all of us, like the time zone is just so bad, right? To like
Yeah.
watch Worlds this year, like Worlds plays from 4 to 11 in the morning, and on day one in play-ins, like our game was supposed to be like 6 a.m. But then because of like all the pauses and stuff, I think BYG's game was at like 7:30. And I was just like, I wish I had known it was gonna start at 7:30, because you're 6 o'clock. I was like, I'm staying awake. I'm staying awake. I'm staying awake. And then at like by 7, I was like, oh, I'm dying. I'm ready to pass out. And then when it started at 7:30, I was like, are you kidding me? I could have like slept early. Like, yeah, I think for all of us, like we stayed up to like support our region and our teams. So I mean, it's not that they need to do well for us, but I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
we would have like I would have liked to see like maybe better games. But I also appreciated that they let Liang play for one of the games, because I was like, I think I had some people from like other regions. Usually every year, like I get asked by a couple of like content people, either like broadcast or some of the other like hosts from some of the other regions. So usually like we all talk to each other and they're like, oh, do you have any stories, or like can you tell us like which players are good to interview, or like are there any like important storylines from your region that like they don't want to miss and stuff. So then we're also like just briefly talking about like the chances of Liang playing the game, and I was like, probably like towards the end when it doesn't matter. Like, but they're probably not going to play much. Yeah, but I was really glad that I don't know if it was like a for the fans thing or for Liang himself sort of thing, but I think we were all like really happy to see it. I think for like Liang and Kino, I just wanted this year's Worlds to be a better experience for them than last year. Like, I just hoped that they were able to like kind of get rid of like some of those demons that they had from like last year's experience, because I can't
Yeah.
imagine like being on the team last year while that was going on. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that would mental boom any team or player. Like the
Yeah.
whole like situation with their mid lane. Yeah. But I think that this year they did okay, maybe below expectations. But
Mm.
I don't think their play was bad. Even in the games they lost,
Mm-hmm.
I never felt like
Mm-hmm.
they played they didn't play to their strengths. Like I feel like they gave their best performance they could, and it was
Yeah.
unfortunate that it wasn't good enough. But I don't think that's anything to be ashamed of. Like as long as
Yeah.
like for example, like I hate NA because they play like one style in NA. They go to Worlds and
Aren't
play
you in
completely.
a?
Yeah, but that's why I hate NA. Like people ask, like, aren't you from like NA? It's like, yeah, but that's exactly why I hate NA. So like that carries over to all my other. That's why I kind of hate the LJL like Japan because it's like that NA vibe. Like you have to hate your own region. Like I'm very pessimistic.
Mm,
So like
yeah.
yeah, but BYG played their style. They did their best, and I feel like that is a
Mhm.
performance you can be proud of. Like it wasn't the best result, but I think they stuck to their strengths and did their best.
Yeah, it was also like best of one, and like like it's more like swingy, I guess, than best of ones. Like I think watching all the games, there wasn't really like a game in particular, like while I was watching, that I felt like, oh, there is no chance. Like I think like every game felt like they had a
Mm.
chance to win. Yeah. There are a bunch of people in chat asking how CFO is doing in scrims. I'm not sure if you can like
Um,
talk
so
about this.
I can't talk about specific teams, but I want
Of
to say
course.
like it is kind of weird because we've been playing some of like the good teams, like
Hmm.
like top two, top one, like I guess like in the pools, and sometimes we do really well, and then I get kind of nervous because in like spring split when we lost in the finals, we were actually smashing in scrims against some of the top like LPL teams. So now I'm just
Yeah.
like kind of wondering like, wait, what if we like because we have a thing where I feel like we win in scrims, we lose on stage. So now I'm kind of nervous because I'm like, wait, if we're doing well in scrims, does that mean we're gonna lose on stage?
Oh, the
So
curse.
yeah, it's like a reverse because whenever like when we won like against PSG and like BYG for summer, like we were like
Yeah.
against like even like some like Vietnam and LGL teams, we weren't doing really well. So I feel like with our team when we just like int and scrims and just like play poorly, like we're like okay now we have to
Yeah.
play well on stage. So
Yeah.
it's been 50-50. Some days like we're like I'm like wow we're like really good, like we could probably make top 8, but other days I'm just like wow I think we're gonna get fourth place in our group. Like it depends on like any given day. Like our team is very in scrims like up and down the way we
Mhm.
play because we play like
Mhm.
we've been copying a lot of like VCS and like LPL style where like in
Yeah.
scrims we just like throw everything at the wall, just do whatever we
Yeah.
can to like win, and like so we either int really hard or we just like smash our way through. And then on
Yeah.
stage, we pull that back a little bit. So I feel like yeah, I think the scrims have been going like well, which may or may not be a
Mhm.
good thing depending on
Yeah,
your
I
point
mean,
of view.
yeah, I mean, you never know, right? You also don't want to like give everything that you have in scrims, and then like other teams find out like your strats or like whatever picks that you're gonna do, or like if you're doing something funky level one, that sort of thing. Like I think different teams in different regions also have like different scrim styles. Like some teams like kind of like would rather sandbag, or like they don't want to like let too many strats show during scrims. And then there are also like some regions where like I'm not saying that they do for sure, but like where it seems like the teams also like share strats. Like if they scrim your team, then there's a chance that they might tell another team from their region about your team also. So like it's just very different scrim styles across the board. Like you never really know like what a team is gonna do on stage, even if you do scrim against them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of regions stick to themselves. Like I know LPL and
Mm-hmm.
LCK mostly scrim each other, but we
Yeah,
don't
they
really
like,
have anyone
yeah.
like that. Except I guess
I
Gam we're really
know.
close with, so we've been
Mm-hmm.
scrimming them a lot throughout the year. So we're pretty like
Mm-hmm.
close. So we talk quite a bit, and I actually
Yeah.
like Gam. Like Gam is a very friendly team. Like the CEO is
Mm-hmm.
very friendly and kind. Like everyone's very
Mm-hmm.
talkative and like very polite. So I enjoy
Yeah.
Gam a lot. I want them to succeed. So I enjoy scrimming them the most.
Yeah, I remember like back when like vintage LCK, like back when they had like sister teams and stuff, like there was like
Yeah,
SKT, like A and B, and
yeah,
like Janair, like 1 and 2, that sort of thing. Like they would just scrim their sister teams, like for Samsung and stuff like that. And then even if like the team, even if one of the teams was like eliminated or whatever, like they would still like stick around to like scrim each other, that sort of thing. And then when that system got abolished, I remember like I think LCK also used to be very, I don't know how to say, like insular about that. Like they had really strict rules. I remember like there was one year because I was on LGD for like 3 years, and like we were at Worlds also, and like the LCK teams, like they have very strict rules where like they couldn't, like their management will like tell the team that like they weren't allowed to have like close contact or like talk like with people on like a team that could be their rival team for that competition, that sort of thing. Like that was really like kind of like really hush hush and like secretive and
okay.
stuff. Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of different from like I think like the minor region energy. I feel like for like most of the minor regions, especially like for play-ins, like most of the teams that were there, like they're the top team in their region, right? But I think for a lot of minor region teams, they're the best team and they're like the very dominant team in their region, and it makes them like very like carefree. Like when they get to international competition, like MSI or like Worlds, they're just really happy to be there, and they're like confident. They're like, yeah, like we smashed our home like the whole year and stuff, and now like we just want to make friends. You want to like get that faker selfie. We want to like, it's like I like the vibe. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I like the positive energy. Like a lot of people are
Mm-hmm.
talkative, and I feel like that's really cool. So it's, I feel like a lot of players might, a lot of Asian players in particular are kind of on the shy side. So I don't know. Like I've never
Yeah.
had any bad experiences like talking to them, but I do like I am a little bit like of the, because like in Asia you don't really talk to like strangers, or you don't talk to people on the streets. Whereas like in America, like I've had so many people just like talk to me and ask me where I'm from and like all these questions. So it's very
Mm-hmm.
like different culturally, and that's always like a shock whenever I come to America. I'm always like, oh yeah, people talk here, because like in Japan, like
Yeah.
you look away, or you look at your phone, you don't really
Yeah.
talk with like random people. So it's a
Yeah.
very new experience. I wonder if like a lot of the other like players from other teams are experiencing that.
Yeah, probably. I feel like also because like for Worlds, like the day that the broadcast starts is not the day where like is not the first day that the teams are in that country, right? Like you get there like a whole week or so before, and
Hmm.
then you have like features, you have like media day, you have like rehearsals, like set up the practice room, take your COVID test, that sort of things. Like they've been there for like a good week, but I feel like they're like for I think usually it's like mostly the Asian teams, like they get like food poisoning, or like the LPL teams, like whenever like World is in Europe or whatever, and then they're always like packing all their like instant noodles and like all their like microwave rice, like the Koreans do that too and stuff, and then they just bring like all their food because they just like it's just hard to adapt. I think like to the culture, to the food at the start. Yeah, like you want to like go out for like tacos and stuff, but you're also like, but you have competition in a few days. Like, can you risk that? Like, I don't know. Yeah.
That makes sense. Like we brought some food over, but I feel like our team is pretty open about food. Like
Yeah.
we've been ordering like different kinds of food. Mostly
Yeah.
like there is times when they're just like, oh, I just want something like Asian. So like we get like there's like some Chinese restaurant that we ordered from. But
Yeah.
besides that, like I feel like they're willing to try stuff because yeah, we went out a little bit. You can see
Hmm.
like New York. There's like hot dogs and stuff. Like that's kind of like
Oh,
New York's thing, I guess. Like it's the hot
yeah.
dog guys.
I think I saw like I've been seeing on like a lot of people's social media. I think like Atlan, he posted on Facebook also like he like you guys went to hot dogs, and then he posted a photo of a hot dog, and I was like, this does not even look like a good hot dog. Like, did you just go to like the most rando like hot dog place? I was like, oh, this looks American. Like what happened here? And then like Liang also like when they're in Mexico, like he there's kind of like a meme almost back when I know like Clement isn't there this time, and I don't think he was at MSI earlier this year, but like in the past, whenever Clement is at like international competition, he has this like food diary thing that he'll post on his Facebook where he'll just like rate all the food, and he'll give like this in-depth like food review about like all the food at the international that country. And then like this time he's not there, but then Liang was like posting constantly on his IG stories, and he was like posting like Mexico McDonald's, Mexico Burger King, Mexico like KFC, and I was just like, why are you eating this, or like pizza and stuff? It's like you can get this back home. Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
great though. Like it sounds like you guys are like getting like going out in New York and like trying stuff. That's always fun.
yeah. It's been a great, really fun experience. I enjoyed
Mm,
being here. Like the food is good. I think like because there's a large variety of food, so that's always nice.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
I
yeah, like
love the
living here is like or being here is really like cool.
Yeah, there's this. I remember, because I used to go to school in Boston. I went in college in Boston, and then for a lot of like some Christmases or like weekends or whatever, like we would like my friends and I, like, we would just take the bus and then go to New York a lot because it's like a 3 hour bus ride and stuff. So we were always like there and stuff. There's like so much food that I like to eat in New York. There's a chicken over rice, like, like by the
Oh
street,
yeah.
like they have like those carts, and there are some that are like super good. I can't remember. I think there's one on like 52nd or like 53rd Street and somewhere that like I used to really like, and I used to like just line up like in the cold, but it was worth it. It was so good. You guys should try
Okay,
it.
we'll definitely try stuff. We've been trying things every day, but oh, so yeah, we kind of like got sidetracked about the group stage. Like, I
League,
wanted to
the
ask because
games.
like, well, I mean, I feel like the group stage was kind of like, or the playing stage was a little bit predictable, except for like
Hmm.
maybe Group A was the most unpredictable one. Is there like any
Yeah.
team that you want to talk about from Group A?
You mean from the play-ins?
Yeah, the play-ins, Group A.
Yeah. Um, I think like I feel like you can't really tell because they played five best of ones, right? And even like if you just even look at like Fnatic, like I feel like their trajectory throughout playoffs was like their first two games were like a bit rough. They were like, they had like their subs and then like Healy came in on
Mm-hmm.
like day two and everything, and we weren't really sure like because it's kind of like up down. I think most of the teams didn't have stable performances at all. Like not even just like Group A, like even Group B, like RNG, where they dropped the first game to DFM. Also, it's like I don't think it's easy to predict how any of their performances will be in groups just based off of play-ins, because like for I think for most of the teams except the Koreans, like they weren't that stable. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? Are you worried about RNG in Group D or no? Did you look at
Um.
them lose to DFM in game one and
Yeah.
you were like, oh wow, like are we getting DFM instead? What do you guys
I was the
think?
biggest DFM fan during the middle of
Of
game one because I
course.
was like, oh, they're not gonna
Yeah.
win. So I was like, kind of watching. I'm like, wait, are they winning? And I'm like, oh my god, dude, I love Japan. DFM's the best team in the world. You can do it.
Yo.
And then after that, I'm like, oh, never mind. I shouldn't have like. I should have just like the moment you buy in and like give them hope or you
Yeah.
believe in them. I feel like that's when teams start to like falter. It's at least from
Yeah.
my experience. I feel like I curse teams by
Hmm.
cheering for them.
I think like we all feel that way.
I feel
Like,
like LPL's just not good in best of ones. I don't I think historically
hmm,
speaking, like that's where they struggle the most. Like during playoffs,
yeah.
they're really solid, but until playoffs, I feel like they can always drop like a game or two.
That's true. I feel like I don't know if it's just because they're used to that. Like the fact that their regular season traditionally is like the longest. Like they start their earliest. They always start like in January,
Hmm.
and then like they play for the longest and they play the most games because like they have the most teams, and then they always do like a 2 or 3 round robin within the group, and then they cross groups and stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're used to playing that like best of one or like two games in the regular season where it really doesn't quite matter because even like the top teams will drop a few games here and there and they just like try stress. They're like, oh, what's good in the meta this week, and then they try that out. So I don't know if that carries over to like their mindset for best of ones, but I feel like for LPL and LCK in particular, like whenever it gets to playoffs or whenever it gets to like best of five, I feel like I just have a lot of confidence in them in the best of five. Like best of one, it's like, especially LPL, right? Like you don't know if they're just gonna YOLO for that game or that day or not. But when it's like a best of five, and if like even if they're down after the first two games, like I would still believe in them for like the reverse sweep. But
Hmm.
I don't usually think that as much for I think like teams with not a lot of experience. I think that's when like the mental game is really important and stuff also.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
DRX was consistently good. RNG
Mm-hmm.
losing to game one to DFM was surprising, but I feel like they kind of underestimated DFM. Like it
Yeah.
looked like that towards the end of the series, it was pretty one-sided. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like RNG is still good. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think they're unbeatable. Like when people are predicting them to win worlds, I don't think they
What?
will win worlds. Like because I watch a lot of like League of
Yeah.
Legends shows. A lot of there's like Gen G. There's like JDG, like
Genji,
PS,
JDG, I
and
think.
then like for
Yeah.
some reason like people are putting like RNG up there, but I haven't really seen anything from them to make me think like this version of RNG is going to win Worlds. Like I think they'll
Yeah.
probably get top 4, top 8, but I don't think they're like Worlds
Ooh.
winning Worlds winning good.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would put them top four also. But like, I mean, personally, I wouldn't put them top four. But I think that like at least for me, like even though RNG is in Group D, I still kind of think that like CFO has a pretty fair chance of making it out. It's also because like traditionally, like our region scrims a lot versus LPL, so that's why like usually at like MSI or like international tournaments, generally like PCS does pretty well versus LPL, where like the LPL killers or whatever stuff like that. I think that's because like we're also a bit more used to like the way LPL plays because of scrims. So yeah, I think like I mean versus RNG, I mean they're a good team, but you guys have a shot.
Yeah. Like I think Gen G is gonna be locked in first in our group. Like I feel like Group
Real,
D, everyone's gonna
yeah.
put Gen G first. I don't see a
Mm-hmm.
world where they just implode and just like mental boom or something. It's like I feel like that's super unlikely to happen. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
for us to like in order for CFO to make it out of groups, like we have to be like 100 Thieves, right? I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as an NA hater, I think, as playing against an NA team, that should be doable. I feel like for us to like do well, we have to 2-0 100 Thieves. I don't think that's unlikely to happen considering like I think NA this year has been looking pretty weak. So I
Yeah.
feel pretty good about our chances against them.
The funny thing is that after right after the group draw, because like most of the teams, especially like NA, right, they always release like all their content about like reactions to group
Hmm.
draw, stuff like that. And then I saw like the 100C content that they put out after the draw, and then like they were asking, I can't remember if it was their coach, I can't remember who on 100C that they asked. I think it was a Travis interview, and he was like, "Oh, so what are your thoughts on like the draw on like Group D?" And then they were like, oh yeah, like like Genji strong, whatever, whatever. And then the C to that, the Oyster team, yeah, like we can beat them easy. And I was like, excuse me. Like, I
Yeah,
feel like for CFO and for 100T, they're both just kind of looking at each other and they're like, yeah, sure, we got this. So,
yeah,
like, because you don't know, right? It's like
yeah.
at the international level, just how the regions are going to match up. So, yeah, that'll be fun. I don't know if it's because any like every year, they're always like, oh, like Hopium and whatever. And then PCS every year, we're like, yeah, like we'll make it out of groups. This will be the year. So I don't know like who's smoking more hopium, but like I hope we win, but I don't know what'll happen.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was funny because I saw like a Twitter thread about it, and like people were like upset that 100 Thieves are like, oh CFO, like who cares about them? We'll easily beat them. But I was just laughing because
Yeah.
when we drew 100 Thieves, I was thinking like, yeah, we got this, let's go. So it
I
was
know,
funny
right?
because like NA's like, oh PCS, who cares about that? But like I feel like PCS is also like NA, who cares about that? Like I think it's
Mm-hmm.
fine to like just look at some regions and be like, oh, this region's not good. We
Yeah.
got this because you have
It's
to at least
yeah.
have some confidence. And yeah,
Yeah.
I would rather have 100 Thieves than any team from like LCK or LPL. I feel like I don't think
Right.
that's that insulting, and vice versa. I'm pretty sure they would rather have us than any team from like LPL or LCK or even like
That's
EU.
true.
I feel like those three regions like are above the rest. So I feel like it makes
Yeah.
sense that they would be happy to get a PCS team.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's like just kind of like the mutual disrespect that's going on, but like I'm here for it. Like every year at Worlds or like MSI, like one of my favorite threads to like read on Reddit is always the NA versus EU shit talk mega thread. Like that, like every year, like that is my highlight. And then it's just like 10 years of the past where they're like, oh, NA, you mean near airport? And then like it's just my favorite thing to read. So I don't know. I just like all the BM that goes on. Where like
I
100 T's
love the
like
NAE BM. Like it doesn't like I'm at a point
yeah.
where like I don't care who wins because whichever wins, the other side's gonna be throwing so much shit at the other team. It's gonna be glorious. Like I love the
Yeah.
"I'm a cutie pie" thing because like quote me on this EU is trash, where he has like the
Yeah.
American flag behind him. It's like I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this is the memes that
Yeah.
generate between EU and NA is just glorious. So I'm always
Yeah.
hyped whenever whichever side wins. I'm always checking Reddit. Like I always love
Same.
reading all
Like
the
same.
flame. So
I know, right? Because like we're so like removed from that where we can like just enjoy it as like a bystander and we can just like watch them fling shit at each other and like if both teams could somehow like both lose, like that would just be the best. Like, I would enjoy that so much.
if
This
CFO
is
wins,
terrible.
I'm 100% taking a screenshot of the 100 Thieves CFO. Like, what's the post match thread? I'm gonna take a screenshot of that. I'm gonna like print it out, and I'm just gonna look at it because I
Yeah.
can't like I can't wait because like Twitch and Reddit come up with like the weirdest and craziest memes. Like they're always like
Hmm.
I feel like Twitch comments and like Reddit comments they don't really have a side. It's just like whichever team loses is just gonna attack that one team. So I want to
Yeah.
see like what they can come up with like Flying Oyster and like 100 Thieves.
Hmm.
So I'm really
Hmm.
excited. Like that's probably one of the like the highlight of the match. Just all the like shit talking. Like I can't believe NA lost to like PCS and all this stuff. Like it's gonna be great. Win or lose, I think it'll be great.
Yeah, I think like Frank and I like talked a bit about this in the predictions video also, which was that at least for me personally, like I was like when we got the 100 Thieves versus CFO matchup in Group D, I was just kind of like being like, man, if only like Genian were on the main team instead of the academy team, then you'd have the storyline of like Genian going up against his like ex teammates and stuff like that. And then like we thought about it a bit more, and then we were like, so if Genian's not even as good as 100 Thieves main team, but his teammates are on CFO, like what does it say about like the general level of like what about this comparison? Like I'm gonna not think about it too much. But yeah. Yeah.
I do have some thoughts about that because at the beginning of the year, when I was talking to the players and stuff, I told them that
Mhm.
like you can have like for example Team Liquid's a good example where like you can have five individually good players, but the team just doesn't work. Like there's no synergy, there's no cohesion. So
Yeah.
it's not like if you look at the Team Liquid roster, I wouldn't say like, oh, these players are just like terrible at the game and all should be kicked. I would say like, okay, you just have to change like one or two pieces, and then you'll have like the
Mhm.
cohesion there. You'll have like the like
Yeah.
synergy, and I feel like that's what was happening with a lot of like the. I mean, I guess I'm biased towards CFO, but like like I was talking to like Rest and like Mission, Gemini, and I was like, I don't think your teammates are bad. I just thought like your like the cohesion, like your teamwork wasn't good. So I feel like if you mix and match players, sometimes that like triggers something and activates something, or you're good at covering a certain weakness that another player might have, and I feel like that's what kind of helped us do well. I feel like the way our team bonds and like the way we communicate was very good. So
Yeah,
I think we'll do well. Yeah.
yeah, that's really interesting. Like I agree. Like I was watching I think it was the video that went out on CFO's YouTube channel either like earlier today or yesterday where they had like it was like the oh it wasn't on CFO's channel. It was the Four Gamers interview and photo shoot that they did. But they were like asking them a bunch of questions also. And I think like they asked I can't remember who it was who answered. It was like Mission or someone who said that like for the CFO roster, they're talking a bit about like how the roster came together and how it was like mostly Gemini like bringing in different players and stuff. Because at first he said like when Machi like when the club suddenly like disbanded, he went to tell he went to tell Koala and Atlan or something that like whatever team they end up next, like he wants to make sure that he's still teaming with them, that the three of them are together. And I think it was Mission who said that like when they found out, like when the roster came together and he was like, oh, so like Koala and Gemini are also both on the team. I think he said that like it was at that moment where he knew that the team was going to do well because like their play styles and like their personalities and stuff were going to form a very good team. Like they were going to form a team that worked. So I thought that was also very interesting. Like, I mean, yeah, like I agree. Like just like looking at the team or the way like they interact, the way that they play, and like when I interview them also, and like the way that they talk to each other, it's like because CFO is the they have the highest average age of all the
Oh, yeah,
PCS
so
teams.
bad.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to like
Even at
be
Worlds, yeah.
polite. Yeah, they're the boomer team, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
they're the boomers plus one Zoomershun team in the PCS, right? Because I think Koala is the oldest player. He's 27, and he's older than Mission by like 2 months or something. But they're the two like oldest players in the league. But they have like just very calm energy and like the way that they talk about things. It seems like it's very mature. I feel like their atmosphere is probably very good, and I feel like they probably don't fight a lot, that sort of thing. That's just like the vibe that I get from CFL.
Yeah, I don't remember too many arguments. Like, obviously, every team's gonna have like issues and times where you like
Mm-hmm.
argue, but it never felt like destructive. It always felt like constructive arguing, and because
Mm-hmm.
everyone's like so experienced, like they've all been through like like the hardships. They all been through struggles, so they all kind of like understand and know what to do. So every time they like
Yeah.
talk and argue, it's always been like like, oh, like we could do this better, and then they're like, oh no, we can't do this. It's like they argue for a bit, then they come to a conclusion. They're like, okay, yeah, yeah, let's do that. That works better. So yeah, I feel like everyone on the team is mature. I mean, we are.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, someone posted like a stat. I think our average teammate is 24 years old, and 100
Ooh.
Thieves is 24.4 years old. So they beat us slightly in the old age like department.
Are they
So
winning though, or are they losing? Like,
well, yeah, it depends on who you ask, I guess. Like people will think, oh yeah, it's better to have younger players, but we're gonna see who is the better retirement age team.
I
100
mean,
Thieves is
they're
CFO. That's another storyline that I want to see Riot push.
right. I mean, like 100T is. I mean, NA is already the retirement region, right? So,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, yeah. Like I've heard, in the past from like some of the other teams where like the atmosphere is so bad until we're like if like players are practicing late at night like after scrims and they're just like solo queuing and someone's like ordering boba, but then like they order for other teammates but they don't like ask one player, and then the player's like, oh, like they ordered boba and they didn't even ask me, and then they feel like angsty about that. I'm like, how old are you guys? Like, how are you fighting over things like this? But yeah, so it's great, like from what it sounds like, that like CFO don't that they're more mature and they don't like fight over dumb stuff.
Yeah, I don't remember any like petty arguments. Like I don't think
Mm-hmm.
that I can't think of one time in the team where there's like arguing about something. Then I was like, dude, like I can't believe we're arguing about that. It's usually like, oh, we should have like rotated at this timer, or like we could have done this play, and that's what they argue about. Which sometimes is like, why are we arguing about this for so long? But at least it's like league related. It's not something about like, why did you
Yeah,
order boba without me, or like why did you get
yeah.
food? Like why didn't you invite me? It's not nothing's been like that kind of like argument. So I guess we're kind of lucky on that side. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any like group like games or group stage games that look interesting to you? Because now that we know that where all the teams are
Group
going,
A. Group
so Fnatic will
A.
be in yeah, Fnatic will be in
Group
Group
A.
A,
I think before
EG Group
Fnatic.
B.
Yeah.
I think
I
Group A is
think
interesting. Yeah, it looks
Group
interesting at least.
A. Right? No, like I think even before Fnatic landed up in Group A, like I already like was looking forward to all of Group A's games. I don't know how it's always like SKT, EDG, Fnatic, and like C9. I don't know how like this always happens. Like this has got to be scripted, right? Like what's going on? But like I am so here for it. I like can't wait. Like I love T1. Like they're always world champions in my heart. Like I root for them every year, even though like I mean like last year their run was great. I think like last year no one thought that they were going to do that well coming out of the LCK, like their regular season and everything and stuff. So like I'm kind of like hoping for a bit more of like that this year, but I don't know. We'll see. I think yeah, I think any sort of like LPL LCK matchup is always going to be good. I'm kind of excited to see how well like JDG or like TES and stuff do and whether they're going to really like be as strong as everyone thinks that they are. I think like some years you never know. Like there was that one year like FPX that year where like they came in top and then like they didn't make it out of groups, and like some years also like EDG just freak doesn't do well
Hmm.
like in group stage too. So I guess you can't ever really predict, but yeah, I mean my money is just kind of on LPL LCK always.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are predicting like LCK LPL will make it out of all four groups. I don't think that's
Mm-hmm.
gonna happen. I feel like one of them will fail.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's gonna be EDG that might not make it out because like I feel like Cloud9. This is the year that they don't that they finally or they get it out of groups. They're always making it out of groups historically. Like even though the players are
Yeah.
always changing, they always do the best in NA. And I think Rogue will probably beat DRX. I think those are my two Western teams that I think have a chance to get
Yeah.
out.
Your hot takes.
That's my hot take, I guess.
Yeah, I would be like devastated if EDG don't make it out. I love Mako like so much. I've been like a Mako fan for like more than 5 years. Like, yeah, the fact that he's like still around and like still playing was just like major props to him and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know. I think EDG is probably my favorite LPL team. Like, just historically, I think like the Org also haven't been in as many like kind of like scandals or have as many like rumors and stuff about them, not like some of the other organizations and stuff. I think like C9 also always do really well at Worlds because I feel like it's a big part due to like their org and like Jack and stuff, and just like how well, like what a good like support system and stuff the team always has whenever they're overseas. I think like in the past, like they're one of the teams, they're one of the NA teams who first started like boot camping in Korea
Hmm.
and stuff like that, and they were one of like the first teams where the org was willing to like throw money at them to do well. And like even if
Yeah.
they didn't have results, like the org would still back them and they would still try the same thing for next year and stuff like that. I think like they have a very good support system behind them. I think like that plays a big part when teams go to international competitions. Yeah. What other teams am I excited for? I think watching Mad and Plans was fun because you really like had no clue how well they were going to do. So
Mad Lions?
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I liked watching them lose because of the memes. Like I wanted, I like the players. I like the five players. I think they're good. Like I didn't enjoy like watching the players lose, but I just like the fact that the whole like they didn't win a single best of five. The whole like four players that are considered like best in their position, the MVP of the league, like all those storylines. I think it was funny to watch them lose against like EG, the whole like Jojo Pyun and the Eagle and like the like the
Yeah.
oh this is NA talent, like all that was to me was really funny to watch. So
The
that's why I kind of
tweets.
enjoyed it. But I don't. I think EG's like I don't have that much copium in order. Like I can't breathe in as much copium as I can to believe that EG will make it out of groups. I think they're gonna get last place. I'm all out of copium, or I'm saving it for Cloud9 and Rogue. Those are the
Yeah.
two teams I'm gonna put my money on.
I mean, you're from there, so like you kind of like have a pass to shit talk your own region, right?
Yeah.
Like well, you're allowed to do that.
Well, I do that with LGL and like every year, like people ask, like, "Oh, how's DFM gonna do?" I'm like, "Oh, they're gonna like lose. They're not gonna make it out of
No.
play-ins." And then when they do, I'm like, "Yeah, like I never doubted you." Like I always put like my eggs in both baskets because that way, if they win, then I could be like, yes, LGL's getting better. If they lose, then I could be like, I knew it. LGL is terrible. I was always right. So I can't be wrong, or I can't like lose. It's win-win. Either I'm like a cynical like asshole and I win, or they prove me wrong and then LGL looks good, then I win as well.
You're
So
the
yeah,
worst type of fan.
I'm a
It,
bandwagoner.
yep, you're results oriented.
But same with
Yeah.
NA as well. So
Yeah,
at least I'm
that's true.
consistently pessimistic about things.
I feel like for NA, like their fans, like there are no bigger shit talkers for the NA teams than the NA fans themselves, right? But then every year, like without fail, like NA is always like smoking so much opium. They're like, oh yeah, like we're like no, they're like, oh this year, like like C9's really strong, or like EG, or like whatever. Yeah,
I
I
think the
don't
last time
know.
I was super high in Hopium was 2019 when Team Liquid beat IG in a best of five. That's when I thought like, oh my god, it's actually happening. NA's the best. And then they lose to G2, but like that didn't matter because I was like, oh, that's fine. G2's gonna win Worlds. We'll get second place. Let's go NA. And then Worlds happened, and I was like, okay, I'm done. I can't. No more Hopium for me, and I just locked it away.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the English broadcast like does a good job of like just providing like storylines where every fan from the region can like get behind and can still like see the hope. Like every year, like without fail, like Kobe, for example, like when you hear him cast, you're like, yeah, like this dude genuinely believes his team has a shot, and it's always like fun to hear, even though like we might not agree or we might agree. I think if we were from NA, we'd be like, yeah, like I mean, Kobe's a smart dude. Of course we have a chance. I don't know, but it's always like fun to hear. Yeah, I like the broadcast always tries to make it sound as if like that you have a shot. Yeah, they're never like too focused and like honed in on like, oh, this team is going to win for sure.
Yeah, I think the NA broadcast does a decent job at that. I don't really listen to the casters too much. I do like Kobe. There's a lot of good
Mm-hmm.
NA casters. Like I feel like Captain Flowers, he can always get me hyped for any like game, and then he can
Yeah.
somehow trick my mind. Cause like I'm like in my mind I'm like, oh, NA can't win. But whenever I hear him like cast and like hype up these players, I'm just like, you know what? Yeah, we they can win. Yeah, I think they're gonna win worlds. Like I don't know how. Like I feel like that's the talent of like that's true like skill from like a caster is tricking
Yeah.
me into thinking that yeah, NA can win. I feel like if you can do
Yeah.
that, you are like a S tier caster.
Yeah, Flowers is the GOAT. Like Flowers like not only can make you believe that NA can win, he'll make you believe like that Skarner can win. Like anyone picks Skarner in front of him and he's like, yes, I know everything. Like Skarner's the best champ, and I'm like, really? Maybe you have a point, like I'll keep watching, like I'll keep my mind open. But yeah, it's great. Do you usually like for the PCS like replays and stuff, like do you usually watch it on like the English broadcast or like the like Taiwanese broadcast?
I watched the
Do you
Taiwanese version last. So for 2021, I watched the
Mhm,
Taiwanese one because that was just easier to find because
mhm,
I was just trying to like catch up with like PCS. But
mhm.
usually I watch the English broadcast just because it's
Yeah,
like I mean like
in
I
English.
understand it yeah better. It's like
Yeah.
I always try to listen to see if there's something like something new that they like tell me about the region because there's always like
Yeah.
every once in a while people drop in. I like all the like pieces casters. Like I know like Pyra from like way before and Hysterics and like
Yeah.
Clement. Like Nightstar I didn't
Yeah.
know too well and I guess I didn't know you too well, but there's a lot of like
The
experienced casters on the PCS that I was kind of surprised. I was like, oh wow, I
mhm,
didn't know there's so many like because I've never watched like the PCS English broadcast until this year. So
mhm.
I'm always like surprised at like the level of talent and watching the PCS cast this year. I don't think there's anyone that's like really bad. I feel like everyone does a really good job and they all bring in their own unique like viewpoint and like flair to the cast. So I actually like listening
Mhm.
to the English broadcast a lot.
Yeah, I like listening to both. Like, I feel like the styles are very different. Like, for the English broadcast, it's more like, well, for PCS, we're a bit more niche, right? Because, like, we're an English broadcast of a region where the majority of the audience doesn't speak English. So, like, we know that our audience are like they're kind of like the hipsters that, like, they probably also watch LPL and they probably like watch a lot of leagues. So we just kind of try to like tailor our broadcast a bit towards them and like give them a bit more of like information, like maybe like I don't know, I always try to like bring up stuff about the teams that
Hmm.
as a foreign fan, like it would be really hard for you to know this. Like you would have to be on like PTT, or like you have to like be on the Chinese forums and stuff to be able to like, or like follow the players social media, whatever it's, or the teams, to like know that sort of thing. I always try to like bring that sort of thing up. But then for the Chinese broadcast, I feel like they have a lot more of like those like nuggets of information that are like very specific, or like very like it just shows like the amount of like history for I think a lot of the orgs and the PCS from back when like there were LMS and stuff like that, because most of the players are still around and stuff. Like they always like meme about like old AHQ or like Flash
Hmm.
Wolves and stuff like that still constantly makes it onto the broadcast and stuff like that. So I like listening to both. I feel like yeah, I feel like I learned stuff from both, which was fun.
Okay. I think this is about the end of the show. Is there any other topic that we didn't get to cover that you kind of wanted to touch upon?
Oof. I mean, we talked about a lot of
Hmm.
stuff, but I don't know. I just had fun and like I feel like yeah, I feel like we talked about a lot of things. It was fun for me because I'm not usually the one getting interviewed or like getting asked questions. I'm usually the one where I'm just like, okay, I'll ask people and then I just like sit back and listen and stuff. So like today, like having to, I guess, be more active and like responding and stuff. That was like that was it. That was interesting. It was fun. I feel like we had a great chat, and it's also
Yeah,
like the first time that like we're kind of like meeting. I mean, I know we've interacted before online and stuff, but this is like first time we're like, oh, like
yeah,
a
like,
camera, like
yeah,
oh, you
yeah.
look like exactly like your photos online. Like, oh, is this like what meeting an esports friend is like in this COVID day and age? What? But yeah, this was fun. This was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed talking. I always like, I love talking about League. So my biggest issue is
Mm.
like knowing when to stop talking about League. So I always, this is why I wanted to, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show. Like obviously, like I wanted to try to get more people interested into the PCS. But another reason was because I just like, I can go on for hours about League of Legends. I feel like it's such a fun game, and there's so many different
Mm-hmm.
angles, and there's so many different regions and storylines that we can get into, that I feel like it's a
Mm-hmm.
missed opportunity not to talk about this sort of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
is there anything you want to like shout out where people can watch you? Like promote yourself a little bit to the thousands of
Ooh.
people from around the world.
I I'm probably going to stream on my Twitch for a bit after this because it's like off season. So like usually I tried it like for Worlds last year. I was doing like watch parties and stuff when our region teams were playing. So I'm probably gonna try and do like watch parties when CFO's games are on also on my channel. But I'll probably like stream on my Twitch for a bit after this. It's like off season, so like I have a bit more time to focus on my stream and stuff that I don't usually when the season is going on. But yeah, if you guys, I don't know, like watching the show or like liked watching any of like the interviews during PCS, like hearing my voice or whatever, like yeah, feel free to come by to my Twitch, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. So thank you for being on the second episode. It's been a lot of fun. I enjoyed talking to you. I think, it was very fun listening to your different backgrounds and like different perspective on things. So thank you for being on. And thank you guys so much for watching. This is the second episode, and I'll see you next time.